Welcome home to Homespun, a weekly internet gathering of family, friends, and businesses from Platte County. Our purpose is to connect our community and showcase the colorful threads that run through our tapestry. Grab a warm cup of hometown goodness, sit back, put your feet up, and visit with us a while. I'm your host, Mark DeLapp, and I bring to you portions of interviews from some of our own. Welcome home, Platte County, to Homespun. Today we are on Homespun, and we've got just a treat for me as a photographer of wildlife. And on Homespun today, and John, can you introduce yourself to the people, please?
My name is John Raymer. I am the Executive Director of Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary here in Hartville, Wyoming.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been working in sanctuaries for nearly 23 years now. I've been here at Kindness Ranch for 2 years and coming up on 1 year as Executive Director.
Okay, so this wasn't something that you created here, this was already here?
It was already here. We've been here since 2006.
Okay, and how did it get started? Tell me a little bit about the story and the history of Kindness Ranch.
Dr. David Grubman, the founder of this sanctuary.
What was his name?
David Grubman.
Grubman?
Grubman, yeah.
Okay.
Groobman.
Okay.
He founded the sanctuary as a passion that he wanted to have animals that were used in laboratory research and teaching facilities be retired from that instead of the alternative, which was euthanasia and incineration. So he's a doctor. He was aware of how many animals were being used in clinical trials, in laboratory testing, in veterinary teaching facilities. And unfortunately, the fate of almost all of those animals 15, 20 years ago was all euthanasia. But he knew from his experience that a lot of those animals could be adopted out to homes. And that was how he came up with this idea. He bought the property in 2 different chunks and developed it little by little over time, and ultimately invested a lot of money in getting a sanctuary that he envisioned as not only a destination for people that wanted to experience Wyoming and be around animals, but also as a sanctuary to fulfill a much needed role in making sure that animals weren't being needlessly disposed of, when we could offer the animals a thank you for their service in testing, and we could enrich the lives of people looking for a companion animal. Sure.
On the Kindness Ranch, do you have just domesticated animals, or do you have any wild animals here?
Wild animals are an accidental visitor. We have farm animals. We've got right now 3 cows, 6 pigs, 11 horses and mules, 3 sheep, a goat named Kevin, and 2 rabbits. And currently we only have 1 dog on the sanctuary, but we have 44 cats.
Okay.
And one of the most beautiful things that I love about living and working out here is the amazing ecosystem that's actually on the property. We have an amazing amount of deer and elk that come through. We've got birds of prey, all kinds of snakes, a lot of wild rabbits. The ecosystem is mostly untouched, and we're on just under 1,200 acres, so there's a lot of room for these animals to run and play, and as an amateur photographer, I like taking pictures of them too.
Oh, I bet. David, when he founded this and purchased, what was he doing that he could all of a sudden just stop? And was this like an add-on to his career, or is he a rancher, or what?
He's a psychologist.
Okay.
And he never really stopped practicing. he ultimately called on friends and immediately went into hiring people to develop the facility to better fulfill his mission. He's a fantastic idea man, and he delegates very well. He was able to find the right people to put the right facilities in place to fulfill his vision. He and I share a lot of that in common. I can see the end result of something, and I have no problem delegating and finding people that can help me attain that.
Sure.
And that's really important for a lot of moving parts out here with 1,200 acres and at any given time close to 100 animals and facilities maintenance and everything. It's more than one person can be skilled enough at. You have to rely on a great team.
Sure. Well, the thing that I look at is why is he still living?
Yes.
Okay. Why did he turn this over to somebody else? Was it like his vision, and then he thought to himself, well, I can't possibly do this all myself, and I want to find people that are skilled in the areas that they need to carry my vision, or what?
That's a really good question. In my time here, I've gotten to know him fairly well, but not well enough to know the method of his process on that. I do know that he has a summer home on the property that he, as it's been told to me, that he would bring his family here during the summers, and they would work at the sanctuary and help out as needed. But as his family got older and didn't want to come out quite as often, they were more hands off. He donated that part of the property and the buildings to the sanctuary and
To the corporation. Then.
yeah.
Okay.
And it ended up just expanding the sanctuary. He's still active as far as I talk with him weekly through our board of directors meetings, and he's still very much involved. But as we get older, we don't travel as well, and he's active from a distance.
How big is the board of directors for Kindness Ranch?
We have 4 right now,
Okay.
and they're very active. I'm in contact with them literally daily.
Are they from here in Wyoming, or are they from all over the country?
All over.
Okay.
One of the board members, David Marks, he actually lives in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay.
And he's been involved. He was the first one with a post hole digger out here when Dr. Grubman bought the property. So he's been involved from the very beginning.
And David Grubman, he bought this simply to create a sanctuary on it.
Correct.
And then he just added to it as needed, or?
Yes. He, with the intent of having a destination facility, we have guest yurts that people can come and stay at. It's like renting a cabin for the night, and you can stay on the property and volunteer with the animals, go hang out with some horses and brush the horses, go pet some cats, take dogs for a walk. We have a fantastic pig right now named Sally that thinks that she's a dog, and she'll roll over on her back and let you scratch her belly. It really is not quite like Disneyland for animal lovers, but it's an all-inclusive retreat for animal lovers to be able to come out and just be away from the sound of traffic and sirens and really just decompress for a little while and enjoy the company of animals.
Well, I bet you it's Disneyland for the animals, though.
They
compared
love
to the rigorous schedule and the testing that they must have gone through. Do you find a lot of animals that come here? Are they pretty much well adjusted, or are they damaged?
They're depending on the animal. That's a really good question, because like our pigs, when I've been personally involved in pulling pigs out of laboratories, and the interaction with the pig at the lab was very stress-filled, and it didn't want to have anything to do with the people that were around. And you fast forward 6 weeks, and the pig follows you around like a dog and just loves up on you and wants scratches, and it's It's an amazing transformation. Some of the dogs that we get, most dogs in laboratories right now are beagles, and they're used for multiple reasons, but it tends to be that's most of the dogs that we get. And some of the beagles will never fully recover mentally from equating humans with discomfort. But it all depends on the studies that were performed on them. So if you get a beagle that was used to try a flea and tick shampoo, it's coming from a research facility that it got baths constantly, and then they just monitored to see if there was any adverse reactions. But if you get beagles that were used in clinical trials for narcotics or for God only knows what, that was more invasive and more discomfort, some of those beagles will be fearful for the rest of their life, but they learn to trust a handful of people, and they can go into a house and become adjusted. But whenever new people come in, they might be a little skittish. It can take them a little while. So it depends on the people, it depends on the animal. But last year we brought in 35 cats that were being used in nutritional studies, and they came in and they were just fat and happy as can be, and we've adopted out most of them.
Okay. That was one of my questions. Some people said you didn't adopt them. Some people here in Platte County say you can't adopt them. Some people say you can't because they've been in research studies. They cannot be homed out. That's all false, correct? You can home out some animals here.
Some animals, yes. Currently, we only have one horse that we would consider for adoption. The rest of them, unfortunately, have various levels of cancer, or they're just too old and they're going to live out their life here. We've got a couple of pigs that we could adopt out, a couple of rabbits. All of the dogs that ever arrive here are ultimately adopted out. Cats tend to be more difficult to adopt out just because everybody knows somebody with a cat. So we'd like to get more people out here to adopt out our cats. Our adoption fee for a cat is only $25. So there shouldn't be any financial reason holding somebody back.
And what about a dog? What's a rehoming fee for a dog here?
$150.
Okay. And that dog that is being rehomed out of here obviously has got a clean bill of health.
Yes. Our staff out here, our dog caretakers, actually live and work with the dogs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They live in the same yurt as the dog, and they are the most dedicated behaviorists that you'll ever meet. They spend all of their time trying to rehabilitate a dog. A lot of the beagles that we get from the labs, they've never spent any time outside. So they have to learn how to use steps for the first time. They have to be housebroken. They have to learn, that rolling in the grass is fun. And they get to actually learn to be a dog. They've never experienced sounds of vacuums or televisions or music or anything like that while they're in the lab. And some of these beagles live in the labs for up to 6 years.
Wow, and I assume that in a lab you don't have a lot of human interaction. You've got a lot of cage time.
A lot of
simply
cage
because
time.
they don't have enough people at these facilities to actually treat them like pets. Nor are they trained to treat them like pets. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. It's been my experience that a lot of the people that I've met that work with these dogs in the labs, they really do love and care for the dogs. It's hard to imagine having that level of detachment when you're doing research and these dogs become a tool to a means to an end. The people that own the labs, most of them are contract facilities, so they buy the dogs, they buy the equipment, they pay the staff to take care of the dogs, but then lease everything out to companies to come and do research. And these people, even though it's hard for animal lovers to imagine, it's been my experience that most of all of love these dogs. They get to know the dogs' personalities, they have their favorites and everything like that. But ultimately, you can't do anything to disrupt your control line of what you need this animal for a certain study.
Correct, and you know there's no future there.
Correct.
These animals either are scheduled for euthanasia or they are homed out to sanctuaries such as this. When I look at this, not a lot of people think it's cruel, but the idea is, farmers have been doing this for years. You raise your cows, you raise your cattle.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather always used to say, don't name the animals that are going to the stockyard.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get too attached, because you're raising them for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, depending on what business you're in, that is a business just like everything else.
Yeah, it's really important for us as an organization, in order to develop these relationships with labs and with teaching facilities that we work with. We have to stress to them that we're not anti-research, we're not anti-teaching, we're not anti-lab. We are anti-euthanasia. If that animal can be rehomed successfully, for us morally, we'd like to give it a chance. And if the animal is too damaged from research, too mentally challenged to be safely rehomed, and it would become a safety hazard in somebody's home if it lashes out and could injure a child or something like that, we have to understand that that's the judgment call that lab has to make. But if they can safely rehome an animal, we would like to be the conduit to facilitate that.
Sure. And what is the most, let's say, exotic animal you've had here since you've been here?
Well, I think exotic would be a dangerous term to get into because of the laws in the state of Wyoming and owning exotic animals or wolf dogs or something like that.
Tell us about that law.
So Wyoming, being mostly a ranching community, there's over 2 million cows registered with the USDA in the state of Wyoming.
Right.
It's rather foolish to bring exotic predatory animals into the state. I know that, if you ever want to get into a heated discussion with somebody, bring up the wolves in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sides on that, and none of them are only halfway viewed. Everybody's very passionate about that. So as an animal sanctuary, we only deal with the animals that are regulated by the USDA and can be used in teaching facilities or laboratory research. We don't have the climate to bring in primates. We know that primates are used in labs all over the country. We'll never bring in monkeys or chimpanzees or squirrel monkeys, capuchins, or anything like that. We stick with farm animals, horses, pigs, sheep, goats, cows, and companion animals that could be rehomed eventually.
Now, up in Wisconsin, I know we had a sanctuary up there that they would take animals like elephants, things like that. Actual work animals for the circus. Of course, Barnum and Bailey was quartered up there in Baraboo, Wisconsin for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, that's how that whole thing came about there. But
if you travel just into the Denver area, if you go 3.5 hours south from us, you can find the Wild Animal Sanctuary that was founded by Pat Craig, and he's got lions and tigers and wolves. You go to the west of Denver a little bit, there's a wolf sanctuary there. There's wolf sanctuaries all over in Colorado. Wyoming, for what it's worth, has chosen as a state to be more pro-agriculture, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're not saying that there is by any means, but when you're
we've got the natural predators here though too. We've got the mountain lions here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of natural predators here,
Sure.
which for a successful ecosystem, whether you personally like it or not. You have to have that balance to some extent. But when you're pro-agriculture and pro-cattle, it doesn't make any sense to allow people to bring exotic predators in for sanctuaries up here. So, I support everything about Wyoming, and as a facility, we do as well. If people want to go and tour exotic animal sanctuaries, they can go to Colorado to do it, they can go to Florida, they can go to Texas. There's plenty of places to go see exotic animals.
Do you have any problems with the natural predators here in Wyoming with your sanctuary? Let's say now I've heard of mountain lions down in Hartville. You got the mountain lions. You've got I don't know if you've got wolves down this far south. I know a bear just came through Wheatland about 2 months ago.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, he was running down running down 15th Street, and so headed up to Guernsey, I guess. But do you have problems with the natural predators here?
So our companion animal facilities on the property, we've taken every precaution to keep the natural predators out. Birds of prey would love to scoop down and pick up a cat while it's outside, so we have all of that wired in and chicken wired in. We've got a lot of coyotes, we've got several mountain lions that come onto the property, but so far to date we haven't had any issues. We do know that there's a fairly large feral cat population out here. I can't speak on if the natural predators affected that or not, but as far as sanctuary animals, no, we haven't had any issues.
Sure. A lot of deer you said out here. You've got somebody said up here on 270 somewhere there's a pretty good sizable elk herd.
Yes.
And where is that located?
I know that we catch some of them coming over the back of our property every now and then. And on some of the cooler nights, it's nice to sit out and listen to them bugle. It's a beautiful scene. Obviously, we have some of the darkest skies in the country. Right. You can see the stars. I love the nights out here.
Oh, that's beautiful. People that move from the city come out here going, I didn't realize there's that many stars. And it's just amazing how when you expand your perspective, you see a lot more. And somebody said the other day, I don't know if those are just stars or if those are just holes that are poked into the breathing holes that are poked into the atmosphere for us. I don't know, kind of an interesting concept. But so, do you have a vet right on staff here?
We do not. I'd like to think that we're one of the largest clients that Laramie Peak Veterinary has in Wheatland. We're in there quite often, and we'll never hesitate to call Brenda to come out here and look at our horses, or Dr. Lucas, or any of those guys. They're a fantastic, fantastic facility, and an absolute godsend to us.
All right. And so they'll come pretty much as mobile veterinary?
If needed. But we do have, I worked as a vet tech for a little while. Okay. Our main dog lead, she has some veterinary training and a lot of behavior training. So we don't, as far as our companion animals go, we'll take 10 dogs into Laramie Peak and drop them off for spays and neuters and procedures that need to be done there. For some of our horses, we've got a couple that were in a trailer accident a few years ago, so we can't get them into a trailer anymore safely to take them in if something needs to be done. So we'll schedule a full day with local veterinarian to come out and take a look at them.
Now, you mentioned before too about the horses that are in various stages of cancer. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the horses were done in cancer studies then.
So some of our horses were used in research. Some of them from past directors were taken in simply because of a sympathy plea. For whatever reason, whoever had the horses before couldn't care for them as well as they wanted to, or as well as the horse required. So even though sometimes it goes against our primary mission, my personal motto is that tragedy is only made worse when those that can help choose not to. So, on a case-by-case basis, we'll evaluate if we can bring in another animal successfully, or if we need to refer them to another sanctuary.
Right. When you bring in the animals, here you've got different animals from different backgrounds. They're not, hand cared for in a lot of cases. How do they get along with one another?
That is, again, a case-by-case basis, and we rely heavily on personal past experience with doing animal introductions and how slow and gradual you need to make that transition.
Before you introduce them into
Yes.
the community.
Some people that I've worked with in the past will just throw caution to the wind, and they claim that overwhelming the animal with enrichment and socialization to start will shock them into conformity. And some people will do a much more gradual, slow introduction. For animals like our dogs that we pull out of the labs, a lot of them haven't experienced contact with other dogs before, so they don't know how to be a dog. And you have to rely on natural instinctual behavior to help them overcome those social hurdles. And usually, when we get a group of dogs in, we only have them for at the most 3 to 4 months before they're all adopted out. So that slow, gradual introduction may not be the most successful way. Right. So you find groups that work right off of the bat, and then you monitor that behavior. For horses and cows and whatnot, some horses just don't get along no matter what, but horses are going to be here much longer than the dogs. The horses are going to have a considerably longer lifespan than our dogs, so we can afford to take a much more gradual approach to reintroducing them to living with other horses, and our success rate is much higher than that.
Sure. What are your hours out here?
For visitors, volunteer hours are from 10 to noon and then 2 to 4, but our business hours are 8 to 5 daily. Okay. We try and wrap up any visitor activities around 4 o'clock to give everybody a chance to do end of day stuff. Sure. And since a lot of our care staff live on site with the animals, it becomes, as soon as 5 o'clock hits, we're kind of encroaching onto their personal home life. So we try and limit any activity on the sanctuary grounds after 5.
And the people that are staying overnight as overnight visitors, is that usually a 24-hour stay for them?
We get a lot of visitors from Denver that come up for just a night, but if you look at our map hanging on the wall, we've got visitors from Connecticut, we've got visitors from Salt Lake City, we have visitors from all over the country, and many will come out and spend up to a week out here, and when they leave, it's actually kind of a sad farewell because they've become almost part of the team.
And they probably get real attached to the animals too.
Very much so.
I know that's it's tough. You go into a pet store, and you hang out with a dog for 30 seconds, and you're like, I have to have this dog. I don't know how many times I've rescued dogs that have been in puppy mills and things like this, and bad facilities. But you fall in love with them right away.
That's why I have 3 dogs at home. Our dog lead, Rachel, she's got 4 dogs at home. Mary, who works in our cat department, she feeds a bunch of feral cats and has several cats of her own. Our ranch manager, Casey, he's got 3 or 4 dogs, a cat and a snake.
Sure.
Everybody out here is animal lovers. At the rate we're going, our staff animals are going to soon outnumber the sanctuary animals.
Right. If somebody wants to come out and visit, it's probably good to call you beforehand, correct, and set up an appointment?
Yes. Ideally, we would prefer 48-hour notice for a tour. We only give tours once a day, and it's every day at 1 o'clock, 7 days a week.
All right.
And a tour can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, depending on how involved people are. So it's a significant part of the day.
Sure.
But I encourage locals, especially from the surrounding communities, Guernsey, Manville, Douglas, Wheatland, all the way up to Casper, just come down and spend a day. You don't have to help out, but we always appreciate help, and any skilled labor is a huge bonus for us.
Oh, I bet. You brought up I can deal with dealing with coyotes or even mountain lions and stuff like that. But when you mention snakes, I get the hair on the back of my neck stands up. So tell me about your ecosystem as far as your snakes go.
Well, we catch and relocate snakes.
Okay.
We do have a lot of rattlesnakes and a lot of bull snakes.
And the bull snakes are good, though.
The bull snakes are good. The
Yeah.
rattlesnakes, whether we want to admit it or not, they are good, just not good around our animals.
Right.
We vaccinate our dogs and whatnot for rattlesnakes. My dog, he's been bit twice, and he's like a truffle hunter. He loves finding rattlesnakes. He's really, really gifted at it. But we will catch the rattlesnakes and relocate them to the farthest back part of the property, and just to get them away from the animals that
Sure.
we're charged with caring for.
And they won't find their way back?
If they do, we just move them again.
Move them again.
Yeah, there's been some studies done that we're looking into more, because a couple of studies have mentioned that when you relocate a rattlesnake, it can be a slow, torturous death for them, instead of just like moving it away from the immediate area but keeping it in its natural environment.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of people that would be like, just kill it immediately. There's a lot of people that would be like, just leave it be, it's not hurting anybody. We try and find the balance. We're not going to go kill a rattlesnake, but we will relocate it. But if we know that if we relocate it too far, it's a slow, torturous death, taking it out of its area, we don't want to necessarily do that. So we try and find the balance with everything. Coexisting is the most important part of what we can try and teach out here. Live by
So do
example.
you have to actually go out and catch these snakes and
Snake dog's right behind you. I catch them every day.
Oh, gosh.
And we have a
They're
lot
that
of
prevalent that you have them up here, that you see them all the time.
we catch bull snakes pretty much every day, it seems
Okay.
like. The rattlesnakes themselves are a little bit more scarce. We're at an elevation that they don't necessarily thrive, but they're still fairly prevalent.
Well, the bull snakes will take care of the rats, the mice, things like that, correct?
Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of bull snakes, you don't have a lot of rodents around. Is that
Ideally,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, ideally.
But, snakes are kind of a nuisance sometimes too.
Now, they have a bat study going on down at Sunrise right now. Do you guys have any dealings with bats up here? Or?
I personally haven't. I'd have to ask the rest of the staff and see if they have.
Okay. I know John has talked to the DNR down there, and I think it's the DNR or UW. Somebody's doing a bat study. They found a very rare bat down, I guess, down in Sunrise.
Oh, really?
So, but yeah, that
I
was.
know they were
interesting.
doing a lot of archaeological work out there.
Yeah, they've gotten over 4,000 artifacts from Clovis Man.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's just unbelievable. Somebody said it's going to be a world dig. So
Wow.
that would be incredible for our little county here.
I tried to get the staff a bunch of campsites at Guernsey State Park over Memorial Day as just a decompression time.
Sure.
So I reserved the group site and a couple of other sites over, and when it came time for us to show up, apparently there was a little bit of an overlap, and the entire campground was filled with archaeologists that were digging out at Sunrise.
At Sunrise, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big thing right now, and if that happened there in Hartville, you kind of wonder what's going on here and what's under this ground here, because that's all part of that same vein, and I'm sure they weren't just located in the community of Sunrise.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time believing that they didn't migrate 15 miles.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Well, John, it's been absolutely incredible and eye-opening here, and I sure thank you for what you're doing. As an animal lover, this is close to my heart, and giving them a chance, to go out to pasture, so to speak, instead of with the options that are out there with the euthanasia and things like that, and loving on them and having people come in and enjoy them. I think that's something that's not from only the beginning of you can go back and you can talk about biblical roots of why God made animals for us in the first place and for us to take care of them. And this has just been an incredible visit with you today. And again, if anybody wants to come out and visit, the best thing to do is to look you up on Facebook or to Google you, or find out if they can give you guys a call and make an appointment to come out.
Yeah, they can call, or, well, phone service out here is a challenge. So usually just email at info@kindnessranch.org and schedule a visit that way. You can call, or locals. I encourage locals to just come on out and introduce themselves.
Sure.
As you mentioned yourself, you've been here and never heard of us, and it's been the fault of some of our past management and whatnot that everybody wants to reach out to the big cities for donations and get on TV and all of that stuff. And I grew up in a small town. My graduating class at my high school was 11. I know what it's like to be in a small town, and I know how important local support is. So it's my passion now to support our local community before I reach out beyond that. So I want to be more involved in speaking engagements, tours, schools, Cowboy Challenge, you name it. I want to be a part of it and show that support for the local community.
That's awesome.
And our motto out here is from labs to labs. So if anybody wants a cat or a dog, please give us a call.
That's awesome. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Heart and soul, I fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do madly, because you held me tight and you stole a kiss in the night. Heart and soul, I begged to be adored, lost control, and tumbled overboard madly. That magic night we kissed right there in the moonlight. Oh, but your lips were very thrilling, never before were mine so willing. Now I see what one embrace can do. Look at me, it's got me loving you madly. That little kiss you stole held all my heart and my soul. Took a walking past your house late last night. All the shades were pulled and drawn way down tight. From within the dim light cast two silhouettes on the shade. Oh, what a lovely couple though they made. Put his arms around your waist, he held you tight. Kisses I could almost taste in the night. Wondered why I'm not the guy whose silhouettes on the shade. I couldn't hide the tears in my eyes. I thought about taking some anger management courses right about then, but I thought, shoot, there's just not enough time. I'm just gonna go down and knock the snot out of him. I lost control and rang your bell. Well, I was sore, let me in or else I'll beat down your door. When two strangers who had been two silhouettes on the shade, said to myself, you're on the wrong block. Rushed down to your house with wings on my feet. Loved you like I'd never loved you, my sweet. Thought that you and I could be two silhouettes on the shade all of our days. Two silhouettes on the shade. Heart and soul, I fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do madly. Because you held me tight, you stole a kiss in the night. Heart and soul, I begged to be adored, lost control, and tumbled overboard madly. That magic night we kissed right there in the moonlight. We kissed right there in the moonlight.